So, hi, good evening, and welcome to my daily live session on various topics for creating world class companies and exceptional leaders. And today, I've picked up one topic at random, one tool at random, which I've been doing for the last couple of days. And today's tool is Blue Ocean Strategy. So, let me directly get into the Blue Ocean Strategy without losing time. And before I explain that, maybe I just give you a bigger picture of the slide so that you can see what this is all about. Blue Ocean Strategy is all about creating a niche market or creating a new market for any company. And here, one would look at alternate industries, market segments, add-ons, functional appeal, accepted limitations of the product or service, buying chain, emotional appeal, social appeal, symbolic appeal, and development over time. I'll come to that in detail a little later. So now let me just introduce you to Blue Ocean Strategy. The fundamental concept is that the ocean could either be filled with red blood or could be blue without any blood at all. The idea is that there are a lot of sharks. Sharks would be the competitors trying to eat up. Therefore, there is only one market where so many companies are competing, and there's a lot of sharks who are eating up these competitors. Therefore, the ocean has become red in color. That's the concept of a red ocean, where you're competing with too many competitors. There is no real true differentiator for a company or with its product or service. And therefore, the ocean has become red in color with a lot of blood being what should I say, there because of the competitors eating up each other. That's the concept of a red ocean. So when I talk about a blue ocean, the idea is that you are swimming in a ocean where there is not much competition, so there is not much eating up going on. At the same time, you have free space for you to swim around. So that's the concept of the blue ocean. So what is the blue ocean strategy? Blue ocean strategy is a process, a very systematic, what should I say, methodology for developing a blue ocean for your company or business. How can this be done? That is what I'm going to be talking about as a tool. And before that, let me just give you a very brief hint that you could also get into the YouTube and then watch my video. I had done a very detailed webinar on Blue Ocean Strategy a couple of months back. It's about almost a 1 hour webinar to explain Blue Ocean Strategy in detail. If you're interested, you could just note down this YouTube link and then go on to watch the Blue Ocean Strategy in the YouTube. It's a webinar which I had done. So now with that very brief introduction, so let me start by talking about how do you go about creating a blue ocean. The first and the foremost thing in my understanding is to first of all understand the product or the service in detail, who the customers are and what need is this product and service meeting, and then identify different tiers of the market. That's a very interesting concept. Again, all this comes from Blue Ocean Strategy. First would be customers whom you are already serving today. The second group of customers would be those customers who are similar to whom you are delivering today or servicing today or serving today, but they are using some other product. Maybe they are buying a product from the competitor, etc. That could be the second group. The first group is the customers who are being served and who are being delivered now, or maybe had been delivered in the past. The second is those customers who are not buying your product. The third group of customers are those customers who are not aware that there is a product like yours in the market which could solve their need. They're the customers who don't know at all that there is a product, which means these customers are basically ones whom you can acquire because they have never tasted a product or a service similar to what you have been doing. So that is the third group. So you got tier one would be the ones who are buying your product or service. Tier two are those customers who are not buying your product, but they know that there is a product available. Tier three customers are those customers who are not even aware that there is a product or a service available for your kind of business or for the product, for the need that you are meeting. So these are the three customers. First is to understand the market. Then you need to understand what are the key differentiators that you have in the market today. And for that, there is a tool provided called as a strategy market canvas. A market canvas basically looks at what are the buyer's decision factors for having bought the product or service, which you basically take from the existing buyers, existing customers of yours. You can interview them or talk to them, or you'll also, you know that because you've been selling your product and service. And then based on that, identify what have been the decision factors. Decision factors could be the size, could be the company brand, could be the cost, could be the return on investment, could be the value that it can give, could be the delivery, could be the innovativeness, could be any of these decision factors. Typically what one would use in a Kepner and Trego decision matrix when choosing a vendor. That's again another tool which I'll speak one of these days when it comes up at random. Kepner and Trego decision matrix. Now, let us say that you know the decision factors. Then, based on your feel, based on the this is again a gut assessment. There's no real objective assessment as such. Get all your stakeholders within the company, preferably those people who are very close to the customer, and then identify some of those customers in your close proximity, some of those competitors in your close proximity, and some of those competitors who are away from you, not very closely competing with you. Try to find out as to what would be the assessment as far as these competitors are concerned, as far as these companies are concerned, from the customer's perspective. Again, you need to put yourself in the shoes of the customer. This is again a very interesting activity which needs to be done. For that, it's a simple way of putting yourself in the shoes of some other person, right? That is what is taught in management school, but you need to have practiced that to do that. People with good empathy would be the right ones to pick up those in the workshop, and then get them to give a score between 1 and 5, for example, or 1 and 10, as to what would be their weightage for that particular decision factor. And once you've done that, you develop what is called the strategy canvas. This strategy canvas then shows you which are those factors, which are those buyers' decision factors where you are better than your competitors, which are those buyers' decision factors where you are worse than the competitors. Typically, what would happen is you would get if you are in a red ocean, it will be more or less uniformly spread, and there is no differentiation as such. Nothing is visible at all. So this is what is called as a market canvas. So once that is done, so you have got the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 customers, then you have got the market canvas done. Then I would go about, these are all things from my add-ons, which I have used for my clients, would be to assess the internal organizational competencies. That is something which is very, very important. Take on your core competencies and find out which are those which is really going to be useful for you in terms of competing in the market. The core competencies, what needs to be looked upon is to understand whatever core competency that you believe you have, how much of it is being contributed to the product and service. That is one assessment. Next is to assess how much of this particular core competency will be evolved in the coming days, naturally in the market. Let me just give you an example. Let us say we are talking about having a business of internet websites, for example. Okay, very simple classic case. We are into a website business, and the website business, if you see evolution over time, what would happen is that more and more software companies would start creating what is called as a low-code platforms for making websites, and anybody can do a website on their own. Therefore, the competence of being able to write code to prepare a website may not be really a core competence as you move along time. Therefore, you would give a lesser rating for that. You understand? On the other hand, if you're talking about having competence to be able to prepare a low-code platform itself, low-code platform, that's what it is called as, where you just pick and place or drag and drop, for example, WordPress. WordPress websites can be done by anybody. And continuously, there are new templates, new themes coming up so that you could create your website to create a wow experience. And I did it myself. If you want, you can visit dinakarmurthy.com, which is done totally by me. I'm not a coding guy, not a developer, not a programmer. This entire website is done by me alone. And it seems quite okay. It doesn't really give you a bad feel. Dinakarmurthy.com, you can check it out. Whereas the other one, where Samutana website is there, samutana.com is something which is done by the developer, which has some amount of coding, some amount of relational databases there, and then interactivity with the app is there. So multiple functionalities are there. I'm talking about dinakarmurthy.com. So there, if suppose you are able to create such a low-code platform itself, then your core competence will be of value, because over time it is going to be innovated, and that innovation is something which is extremely important to say that, look, my competence is very high. Then the next thing which is important is how easy is it for the competitor to copy it. Copying effort, how easy is it? whatever core competence you may have. Let us say I've got a core competence of being able to go to the company and within no time, maybe half an hour, come to an understanding as to what is the core issue there. I just do that based on my ability to do complex thinking, interconnected thinking, and also with my ability of thinking out of the box. And I've seen many organizations, and that expertise is something which I believe I possess, and I can pin down the problem pretty fast. And this competence is something which cannot be duplicated. I can say that, look, somebody can go there and then use all checklists. I've been talking about all these tools very openly, free of cost. There is no cost involved in this, so I can explain as much as you want. But then, for you to really use a blue ocean strategy, you definitely need a couple of months of exercising before you really can put this blue ocean strategy in place. And that's something which is extremely important. Therefore, this competence of mine, which can be exploited, is something which is unique. And these are the core competencies that you would define. First is about the contribution of the core competency to the success of the product or service. Second is how the core competency would evolve, the capacity of the innovation of that particular core competency for the development of the core competency. And the third one would be to talk about how is the ease with which somebody can copy that core competency. So these are the three things which you need to assess. And once you have done that, then you know what are the internal competencies which can be used. On the other side, you have the assessment of your market. Now you get into the blue ocean strategy. Now today I'll take a little longer because this is not that simple explained in 10 minutes. So maybe take another 5 minutes. Now you start creating a kind of a matrix where you assess these topics which are listed on the screen. One is alternate industries. How are the alternate industries meeting that particular need? For example, let us say the need is to travel. The mobility is a need. I could be making a car or a two-wheeler, for example. So my way of meeting the need is by selling a two-wheeler. Whereas the alternate industry could be a public transport industry, for example, or maybe a mass transport industry, rapid transport industry. So their way of meeting the need is totally different. They are not really selling any vehicle at all, but then they are selling a ticket. So that's something which is interesting to understand, how the alternate industries are meeting the need. Then what kind of market segments I spoke to you about the three types of market segments. In these market segments, what are their key decision factors? Why do they choose a particular competitor? Why do they choose a particular product or a service for their need to be met? What are the criteria? How does that differ between the market segments? Is the second thing which you would look at. And then what is the functional appeal of your product? What is the general understanding in the market? How is the functional appeal? Again, that's something which needs to be understood and assessed. And indeed, each of these cases, when you're trying to assess, it's something like conducting a workshop of be it failure mode effect analysis or quality function deployment or function cost analysis, where you are getting a set of people who know the market, who know the product, typically from the application, from the product development, and from the technical sales guys. And then, of course, you need also somebody from operations could add value because they're going to be thinking out of the box to some extent, and the purchasing guys. So basically in contact with the market, those specialists or experts in your organization who are in contact with the market, get them along, and then along with them try to talk about assessing these topics. And when you do that, you also get some kind of an insight, and that's something which is important to note it down. Then you talk about the functional appeal, which I said. Then the next is the emotional appeal. How is the emotional appeal of the product or service which you are supplying? Then what are the social appeal? Emotional appeal would be more to do with what kind of a service. It's more to do with service industries. What kind of a emotion will the customer experience when you are giving that particular product or service to them? And social appeal is what do the social media and how is the general society, what do they think of that? Symbolic appeal may have to do with whether you are doing a product which is totally green, environmental friendly. I have a client who calls themselves as sustainable products, but they do only products which are totally sustainable, which means totally recyclable. They are products which will not damage any environment. So that's something which is a symbolic appeal, which is also equally important. Then you come to the two important things, which is what I want to address now. First is accepted limitations. I keep telling one example which is very simple. Let us say one of the accepted limitation of a car is that when you get down from the car and it is raining, then you don't have an umbrella in the car. Very simple, strange situation, right? You won't have an umbrella in the car. Therefore, you need to always go to the place wherever you're going drenched. And that's a limitation. That's an accepted limitation. Everybody knows that. So you don't expect a car manufacturer to give you an umbrella. Mind you, there are some of the top end luxury brands who supply an umbrella along with their car. And just because there is an umbrella, people keep buying it. Very, very high end cars, Maybach or Mercedes or even BMW, I'm not very sure, Rolls Royce, umbrella with the logo of that particular company embroidered in that, which is a kind of a huge, what should I say, add on. And these accepted limitations is something that we need to understand of a particular product or service. And then from there to look and find out if these accepted limitations can be broken, so that you go to the next level and create a blue ocean for you. Then the next is additional add-ons. What are required for you to work? Can that be incorporated in the product itself? For the paucity of time, I don't want to keep giving examples, so I just generally explain the concept, and after that you can write to me at dinakarmurthy.com, dinakarmurthy@samutana.com, and then I'll definitely be more than happy to clarify your questions and doubts. Additional add-ons are those add-ons which are required for using the product. For example, when you buy a printer, you need to buy paper. Otherwise, without paper, you can't use it, right? So let us say if you are selling a printer, along with that you sell a ream of paper. Could be an add-on which the customer feels is going to be useful for him. And this is again another area where one needs to work on. And the next important thing, which is important, which is very, very essential, is to talk about the buying chain. See, in any organization, any product or service, there is always a buying chain. What is the buying chain? The first guy would be the guy who would possibly give you the purchase order. Then after that, if you look at a company, then after that, there is somebody who's going to store it. So that stores fellow has got some need. Then after that, you got the next fellow who could be the one who issued the material to the stores, to the production. And then you have got somebody who actually using that product, they set the machine or set the process. Then there is another fellow who used the product. And then there is somebody who inspected the product. So these are all the people in the buying chain. To understand what each of their needs are. If you look at a family product, let us say we're buying a house, maybe there is somebody who is talking to the broker or talking to the seller, could be the man in the house, could be the spouse, or could be the lady of the house. They're talking to the buyer and trying to understand what are the features, what are the plus, minus, etc. And based on that, they're trying to make a decision, trying to come to some decision. At the same time, there are others in the house. Maybe the grandmother, she's the one who takes the call. She's the one who makes the call. Because she says that, look, this house having a door facing west will not really make sense, but you need to buy a house which is facing north. And imagine you did everything till that point, and after that, suddenly, boom, the entire thing dropped down because in the buying chain, there was somebody who was not very happy with whatever you bought. Or maybe could be friends and circles. You buy a fantastic stereo system, and after that, somebody comes home and then you show it to them with a lot of excitement and happiness, and then finally they say that, look, why did you buy this? You could have bought a different product, maybe a Bose. You would have got it possibly for half the price. It happened to me, incidentally. I had bought a system which involved traditional wooden speakers, each speaker weighing easily about 20 kilos, like that, 7 speakers, Dolby 7.0 and 7.1, and then a big massive subwoofer. And then somebody says, instead of buying this, you could have bought Bose. You could have got it for 3/4 the price. But then that system which I have got is something unique. So I didn't mind that person telling me. Imagine that person's the commentary that it will be something better. Is something which we need to know when we are making the product and service, so that it can be placed accordingly. So all this, finally, to talk about the development over time. How do you think this product or service will develop over time? Will it exist? For example, the speakers which I spoke about today, it is not at all common. Nobody uses such a speaker. Everybody goes in for Cube speakers, Bose, or whichever company, and then they're much more smaller and much more powerful. And in terms of sound, of course, what I have got is equally good in my opinion. And that's something which is also equally important to understand development over time, what would happen. And once you have done all this, you get the positives and negatives and what is the opinion. And from that, you derive some of the core differentiators. That is where it comes to. And then identify these as the core differentiators, which could be the additional buying decision factors for the buyers, and use your core competencies, which you had assessed earlier, as a base for defining what kind of additional core differentiators you can provide, and then get back to the strategy canvas and add these core differentiators as additional buyer decision points, which you can tell the buyer. You look at it, you try to decide it based on the color of the fridge, and my fridge always comes with silver color. You know that all the others are not making silver color fridge, for example, or maybe a black color fridge. And then the buyer would then start talking about the color also as another important feature for taking a decision, and that's how you create a blue ocean strategy. And once you have done that, the last step, another half a minute, I'm done. The last step would be to try to find out the viability of that particular idea which you got, particular new differentiator which you created, whether it is cost effective, whether the buyer will be prepared to pay the additional price, whichever you are expecting, and whether you can produce it at a cost that is viable to you. These topics are discussed as the last activity. And once that all this is done, then you got the entire plan ready. Then the most important thing is to try it out. Try it out in phases and keep iterating it. Blue ocean strategy, my conclusion would be, blue ocean strategy cannot remain a blue ocean forever. You become a blue ocean, and after some time, somebody else takes over you as a blue ocean, because somebody else also is thinking in the same direction. So it's not possible for you to make a blue ocean strategy today and then stay idle. It's a constant journey. Maybe once every 3 months, once every 6 months, one needs to keep reviewing the blue ocean strategy, whichever you did, to keep innovating something new. With that, you can always stay ahead of the competition, like many companies, Bosch being one where I worked, Apple being the other, Intel being the other. So there are companies where they are constantly being able to innovate, constantly being able to stay ahead of the competition. And with that, I'm sure you would be also able to do that. Look at my video which I shared earlier, and after that, write to me if you have any further questions on blue ocean strategy. I would be pleased to clarify them. And with that, I come to the end of today's presentation on blue ocean strategy. Thanks a lot for watching, and have a nice evening. For those of you in India, for those of you outside India, have a great day ahead. See you on Monday, more or less the same time, with another tool picked up at random out of my 165 or 170 odd tools in my toolbox. Thanks a lot for watching, and goodbye.